Hey folks, thanks for joining me. Justin David, Finest Dollar. Wanted to make a quick video, our next series of YouTube videos, talking about fundamentals and foundation level type stuff, right? We've kind of been on that kick, but it's kind of really our entire kick, right? Because that's kind of what our company is based upon. But we had a student reach out recently and say, hey, maybe you should do a video about why that's important, because you always hear people talking about it, but we don't know what we don't know. And a lot of times it is like it resonated. You're like, how a lot of times when you go to like the doctor speaks over top of you because they just assume that or they're used to speaking in medical terms. And sometimes we take that for granted, especially in any industry really, where we're used to speaking to a certain level, and then you realize you're like, people have no idea what you're talking about, right? So fundamentals, foundation, why that matters, and it's just not speaking to just firearms, right? And we talk about how that's important for exercise, finances, your house, the way you live your life, all of these type of things. Obviously, you're going to have people that want to come in and just have the high-level fun stuff and the pros that go along with that, right? Like people want to invest in high-level stuff without actually having to do smart work or do hard work of like diversified investments, depending on what your thing is. Same thing with fitness. Like people want to just come in and just go do fun races, but not have a base level fitness, right? Like people are like, I'm going to go do this Spartan race. And you're like, if you've never done a Spartan race and you don't have a foundation level, you're probably not going to do very well in that, right? Same thing with shooting, right? If you want to jump in a low light class, a shoot house class, and you don't have a foundation that you focus on, you're not going to do very well, right? And that kind of, if you look at it like a pyramid or house, whatever it may be, we've got to have a foundation. So what does that look like? Again, I was going to make an outline out of this and actually try to have it structured. I'm like, I'm just going to go wing it, make this video and just kind of maybe go on a rant a little bit. But what does that look like for most people, right? You got to look at why you're getting into firearms, right? Are you getting into, and again, your fundamentals should carry you over into all of these aspects, but are you getting in for competition shooting? Are you getting in for a new hobby? Are you getting in for self-defense? Are you getting into it because you are going to get ready to start working in law enforcement or going to the military? Like, all of these things are going to help guide you in which direction that you're going, but at the end of the day, you still need to have the same fundamentals, right? You're still going to typically have the same type of stance. You're still going to have the same type of grip, typically. You're still going to have the same type of sight picture, sight alignment, trigger, and all these different things. There's nuances to that on whichever direction you're going, but you're still having a foundation level, right? And that also includes firearm safety, how to manipulate the firearms and do reloads and clear malfunctions. So that's kind of why our classes are designed the way they are. That's why you can literally take a foundation or a basic level fundamentals class, and you could take that and go put it into special forces, right? Because your safety manipulations can go into that. And then same thing, like if you go shoot competition, all that's going to carry over both ways. But if you don't work on the core principles of keeping your finger off the trigger until you're on target, ready to fire, and you don't abide by those general overall basic fundamentals, then you're not going to do well further down the road, if that makes sense. That's why I like most, and I can't speak to everybody's classes, but like our class, right, we start out with introductions. We do, for our base level classes, we start with introductions, get a feel for everybody. Then we do a pretty decent in-depth safety brief, right? Not only are we talking about a safety brief, but we're also given in-depth examples of where this might happen or certain instances where you should start paying attention. So we go through safety briefs, all the firearm safety rules, all the range rules that you need to be aware of, casualty safety briefs, medical safety briefs, all that kind of stuff. Range commands is our typical safety brief. I'm not going through our whole thing. I'm sure I'm missing something. But after we get into that, then we get into fundamentals. What do fundamentals look like? Well, if we're going to work and build a house, we need to start at the ground up, right? A lot of times some classes will do like NRA's basic personal protection in the home for like CPL. They start at like aiming, trigger, grip, and that's actually backwards if you're trying to build a house, right? We should start at the foundation. So we start at stance, then we go up to grip, then we go into trigger, then we go sight picture, sight alignment, red dots, all this other stuff. But we're working our way up, and then we get into how to reload the guns, all the different type of reloads, and then we get into malfunctions, how to clear all these malfunctions. So your core fundamentals, no matter which direction you go, if it's military, law enforcement, competition, self-defense, everyday carry, all of these things should be able to carry over to these fundamentals, right? That's why those are the important things that you want to work on. Same thing like if you had somebody that wanted to come in and do a Spartan race or the tactical games or all these different things, and they don't work on overall core principles or core stuff, like you're not just going to go out and do a high jump really well without having a base level fitness level, right? That's why we got to get things up to a certain point before we can start tackling bigger, more specific stuff. So I thought that was interesting because they kind of said, hey, you should do a video talking about that. And you're like, we just assume everybody knows what the fundamentals level class is. It's funny because the advanced classes, you can see the students that show up that just want to be there and have fun. And you look around and you'll have a couple people in there that are just doing one a year, and they set that schedule, right? Because they want to do advanced stuff, or they want to be they're at that point in their journey where they want to work on the individual specific skill. But most of our advanced shooters are back in the basic fundamentals class. That's why people are like, man, there's some legitimate shooters in this class. You're like, yeah, that's what we want to work on, right? When we go to the range, we want to work on the fundamentals. Obviously, we work on some other advanced stuff, shooting and moving and all that stuff. But for the most part, we're working on core principles. It's the same way like golfers don't go out and golf 18 holes all the time. They'll go work on just hitting the ball or their stroke. Or football players just don't go play football all the time. They work on individual skills of throwing a ball, strength and conditioning, all these core things that are going to carry them into game day, right? So a lot of people don't understand that concept, or that's a new concept to them about working on fundamentals before we start getting into other stuff. I think that's why a lot of times in our realm, and I've spoke about it before, you see guys in the firearms industry that are not typically physically fit, and they're like, I want to do something. I'm going to get body armor, and I'm going to start throwing around, kettlebells or running with body armor on, and you're like, that's not necessarily a good idea. That's a good way to get hurt and then actually get more unhealthy because you're unable to do more, right? Like you could be working on just core principles of overall fitness, eating healthy, and then stepping up into, okay, now we want to start getting into weighted rocks or other stuff. There's a way to ease into it, right? And I think no matter which direction you go, every space, every industry is going to have people that just want to show up and do the flashy stuff and then not put in the work. That's fine. Those people are usually pretty easy to spot. But if you're getting into firearms ownership and you're getting into other things, if you want to have any longevity to that and you want that to last and be useful, you got to put the work in, right? And I always tell students, if you want to just go golf and screw around and be flashy and end up breaking a club or something like that because you're trying to do something outside of your experience level, that's fine, right? It's golfing. But firearms are real guns, right? So when you're at the mall and somebody takes your wife hostage and you think you're going to make a 25-yard headshot next to your wife, and you've never shot at 25 yards on a range, like these are real guns, these have real consequences, right? So there's even more of a reason to probably focus on the fundamentals with firearms because it's real consequences. It's not golf, right? So that's just something we wanted to talk about real quick. Hopefully that explain things a little bit better and puts things in perspective for some people that may question what that has to do with when we talk about fundamentals all the time, because we obviously hammer that, right? But other than that, thank you guys for watching. Let us know if that kind of hit the nail on the head or if you'd like to see videos for anything else. Other than that, be successful. More importantly, be yourself. Thanks.